Welcome to the second Blackboard discussion on equilibrium. Here's a demand curve. Let's change the color for the supply curve. Here's a supply curve. What we learned last time and what we've been talking about is the idea that under the demand curve is benefit and under the supply curve is cost. And our whole point was that if you do this and think about it correctly, this intersection point, this equilibrium is fantastic because marginal benefit equals marginal cost. That's our recap. Remember, under the demand curve is benefit, under the supply curve is cost. This is where they're equal. Now here we go. This is what's interesting about shortage and surplus. It's not just the fact that we know we can calculate shortage and surplus using these diagrams, but what does it mean about this equilibrium point? That's the question. Let's assume that this is hot dogs, the market for hot dogs. And this is the price of a hot dog. We'll say $8. If the market were pricing things like hot dogs in this particular example at $8, this is what we could tell from our graph. That these suppliers, these hot dog suppliers who have different cost structures would say to themselves, this company would say, you know, at $8, if I could sell hot dogs for $8, I'm going to make hot dogs because my cost is way down here. As a matter of fact, we can put a number to that cost. We'll call it $3. Now this guy says, $8, you bet I'm making hot dogs. And on up the supply curve we go. Each time we would raise the price, these suppliers would be more than happy to supply hot dogs. At $8, even this guy's happy to supply hot dogs. And you end up with the quantity of hot dogs supplied of, let's say, 10,800 hot dogs. Well, at $8, we're willing to supply 10,800 hot dogs. Fantastic, great. But what about our demand? Well, our demand is over here. Because if you read benefit under the demand curve, you say, well, you know, this hot dog bunch here is giving me lots of benefit, so I'm more than happy to pay $8. And this much a hot dog over here gives me plenty of benefit, so I'm more than happy to pay all the way till this point here. At this point here, we'll call it 7,000 hot dogs. We have this price. 7,000th hot dog gives me a marginal benefit of $8. $8, however, means suppliers will produce 10,800 hot dogs. Here's a little bit of math over here. 10,800 is greater than 7,000. We have extra hot dogs. We have a surplus of hot dogs. And that is what this distance is here. 10,800 minus 7,000. I guess that's 2,200 dogs. That's a surplus of hot dogs. Now here's the trick. This is what's so exciting about this surplus diagram. I know you'll probably test it. What is a surplus? You have to draw the diagram. Big deal. What happens is in a free market with free individuals expressing themselves in their freedom of choice and free entrepreneurs giving themselves the freedom of enterprise to use resources the way they want, when a surplus occurs, this guy's not selling his hot dogs and this guy's not willing to buy anymore. He has to lower the price. And we get this kind of motion down the supply line. The price goes down to get rid of these hot dogs, and when the price goes down, this guy will demand it. So if the price ends up being $7.20 over here, this guy's willing to buy, or these people are willing to buy more hot dogs. And we get a general demand or quantity demanded heading in this direction. That's represented perhaps by this arrowing going down the demand curve. What about the supply curve? As the price goes down, these people are buying the hot dogs, the surplus is going away, but most importantly, these guys are not going to produce more hot dogs in the long run. In the long run, this thing keeps working its way down till we get to exactly, voila, the marginal benefit equals marginal cost curve. equilibrium. This is the invisible hand. This is why the invisible hand is so important, because nobody has to do anything. Free producers, free consumers in a free market, no government, nobody has to do a thing. But when the surplus, or if the market's out of whack, prices will come down and we'll get to an equilibrium. Why is that so special? Why is the invisible hand so special? We're going to circle it right up here, because that's where marginal benefit equals marginal cost. A free market working by itself ensures that this particular condition holds. So prices come down, we end up back where marginal benefit equals. Because what about this production level here? If they make this production level, what have we got? We've got something producing where costs are really high and the benefit is really low. That's not something we want. Excuse me. So we end up lowering the price, ending up back at allocation efficiency. I think I'll end it there. I'll come back with equilibrium 3 and we'll talk about shortage. See you then.